welcome to Behind the Curtain with Rob Scanland and Dan Skinkis. This is Season 2, Episode 1.
Hello, and welcome to this edition of The Christian Journey, a look behind the curtain. I'm Rob Scanland, and this is my good friend and Christian brother, Dan Skinkis. The purpose of this series is for Dan and I to share some of our thoughts and experiences on our Christian journey, and hopefully this will encourage you to think and reflect on your own journey. We're delighted and honored that you are sharing a bit of time with us today. So today's topic is seeing the supernatural, and we've Dan and Bob and I have all just experienced the supernatural here in the last 10 or 15 minutes. We've had some technical challenges which seem absolutely unexplainable. So let me start with the definition of supernatural. I think this is pretty helpful. Of or relating to an order of existence beyond the visible, observable universe, especially of or relating to God or a God, demigod, spirit, or devil. So it's interesting that definition includes the devil as having potentially supernatural powers. And then a second part of the definition is departing from what is usual or normal, especially so as to appear to transcend the laws of nature. So the word supernatural means beyond and above the natural. This is where God operates. It is the realm where heaven and earth intermingle, the realm of interaction between God and man. God wants his children, he wants us, to live and operate in this realm as well, between the physical and between earth and heaven. The supernatural is above and beyond the laws of nature, like the resurrection of Jesus. A miracle is always supernatural. A miracle is an occurrence in which a miracle is always supernatural. A miracle is an occurrence in which God intervenes and overrules the laws of nature to do something that could never happen naturally. And I think when we think about the supernatural, it's a little bit confusing. Some people, when they hear the word supernatural, think of that's another word for God. But I think it's actually actions that God and maybe the devil participate in. And there's lots of examples in the Bible. There are numerous references to supernatural events in both the Old and the New Testament. In the Old Testament, God often used fire as one of his supernatural tools. Remember Moses and the burning bush, or the Israelites leaving Egypt for the promised land, Exodus 13:21. The Lord went in front of them in a pillar of cloud by day to lead them along the way, and in a pillar of fire by night to give them light, so that they might travel by day and night. Neither the pillar of cloud by day or the pillar of fire by night left its place in front of the people. And I think that just speaks so incredibly to God's faithfulness, then and today. As mentioned earlier, the most life-changing supernatural event in the New Testament were resurrections. The little girl that Jesus resurrected, Lazarus, who Jesus resurrected, and then later Jesus himself resurrected by God the Father. So what are your thoughts, Dan, about supernatural things? How do we see the supernatural that probably is occurring around us every day?
Yeah. I think, quite honestly, there's counterfeits to it, and then there's the real thing.
Yeah.
I've been around a lot of counterfeit. I lived in Vegas 25, 30 years. Magic is a word that looks like supernatural.
Very true.
And the reality of magic is all contrived by a lot of human beings to make it look like a miracle, which is not. It's just a matter of rigging and all kinds of things that have to occur to confuse the mind to think that it's beyond the natural.
Yeah.
But when God creates the miracle, it's not a big fanfare. It's not a, wow, And to get there, I would have to talk about myself. And it's truly a miracle in my life that I abused my body pretty much early in the early days of my life, and drumming and drinking and all the things that I did, and then working full time. And so at the end of it, 50 years later, I'm laying in Carson City into the emergency room after went up into work on the church property up there at Zephyr Cove. And I'm laying there, and there's a heart thing going on, which I don't understand. And to make a long story short, they took me to the cath lab, and then they came back and they said, we got good news and bad news, that your main coronary artery is blocked totally. And we can't open it up unless we do open heart surgery.
Wow.
But the good news is that you've grown auxiliary veins to supply as much blood flow as your main coronary artery can.
Wow.
It brought me to tears. It brought me to gratitude. It brought me to a lot of things. And so when people see me walking around, they don't think it's just another human being or the church body or whatever. But there's a miracle that I'm on the face of this planet because God's ordained my time, I guess. I can't say why, but I've been in the realm of God's miracles per se, and I know they're not counterfeited because, in my opinion, God will not be in the box, and we can't say, well, today, God, we're having a miracle service, and I want you to jump out of that box and do these miracles. No. There are times that you see it right in front of you. I could go on and on about what I've seen and with the homeless people and things that looked so desperate. But if you take addiction and been there, totally there in it, you would understand without a doubt in your mind that the spiritual component to come out of that and stay out of it is way beyond our human discipline, our human, I'll stop now, all of that. It has to be an intervening power in your life to keep you on the other side of that addiction. So when we talk about it, you're looking for the Red Sea to part. I am. I want to see God do it. Do it. And I always thought, Lord, okay, I've been around my brother, homeless people, and they have addiction. It breaks my heart. It kills me to be in the environment at times when I see people just being defeated by it. And I prayed, give me the touch. Give me that touch. But the touch never came. Because God is a big part of that equation, and choices in our life is a big part of that equation. So that's what I've learned about the reality of miracles and the reality of God's miracles.
So how do we listen with ears to hear and look with eyes to see what God is doing around us every day? I mean, as you mentioned, I think we're predisposed to big and flashy. And I think a lot of what God does, particularly in supernatural ways, are just, small little things, growing that vein in your heart year after year. You didn't even know it was happening, and it was happening.
Yeah, it was happening. I didn't know it. I mean, I thought, you don't know what is going to end your life in the physical sense. And I never thought of that. I never thought my heart would be all clogged up, but it was. And
So how do we listen better? How do we see those things which, in a lot of cases we take for granted? I mean, I think of the surgery that I went through recently, the surgery Pat went through, Randall went through. I mean, really, those are miracles in themselves. They're incredible. I mean, that God has given the doctors the knowledge and the ability to do what they now do literally routinely, and yet to some extent, we're jaded by some of that stuff. We think, oh, yeah, this is,
I think the doctors are the first part, but not the most important part.
Yeah.
They can go in there and they could take the sinew apart of the muscle and move the muscle around and get in there and cut and do whatever they have to do. But there's so many elements of recovery that I believe there's blood clots, there's it all went wrong. There's all kinds of things that could happen after the infections, COVID. It goes on and on.
Yep.
And so that protection and that healing of this tissue that comes together has to be anointed by this God of the universe that puts us back together again.
Thank you for watching Behind the Curtain with Rob Scanland and Dan Skinkis. This is a Presbypod production of Aunt Betty's Studios, a ministry of First Presbyterian Church, Carson City.